friends, Emily Ruff here. I'm here to wish you a happy summer solstice and to share with you a little bit about this astronomical celebration taking place this year on Sunday, June 20th. In the Northern Hemisphere, summer solstice, which is also known as midsummer, marks the start of astronomical summer, where the sun reaches its northernmost point in the sky. The word solstice comes from the Latin solstitium, which comes from the root word sol, or sun, and stitium, still or stopped. Due to the tilt of the Earth's axis, the sun doesn't rise or set at the same location on the horizon each morning and evening. Its rise and set positions move northward or southward in the sky, while the Earth travels around the sun in the course of a solar year. In addition, the sun's track in the sky becomes higher or lower throughout the year accordingly. The June solstice is significant because the sun reaches its northernmost point in the sky, and at this time, the sun's path doesn't change for a brief window. The Earth's orbit around the sun coincides with a point where the sun reaches its highest point in the sky, and as a result, we experienced the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. This phenomena is due to the Earth spinning on an axis that's tilted about 23.5 degrees. So in the Northern Hemisphere, when the North Pole, tilted on that axis, reaches its point where it's closest to the sun sits directly over the Tropic of Cancer, and we experience in the Northern Hemisphere what's known as summer solstice. This phenomena is precisely opposite in the South Pole, when due to that tilt, the South Pole is then farthest from the sun, and they experience winter solstice. During the summer solstice days, in the Northern Hemisphere, we experienced the longest days of sunlight in the course of a solar year. And the further north you go, the longer that daylight stretches. For instance, within the Arctic Circle, there's continuous daylight around the summer solstice. The sun hardly ever sets. They have very little nighttime. The closer you get to the equator, the more that you see a balance of day and night, but you still experience a longer day and a shorter night. This year, the summer solstice occurs precisely at 11:32 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, June 20th, but the phenomena of the length of the days and the shortness of the nights stretches for 2 to 3 day period on either side of that moment. Because the sun is at its highest point of the year, you will notice on this very long day that your shadow will be the shortest that it is all year because the sun is at its highest point and is directly overhead. After the days of the summer solstice, the sun appears to reverse course or head back in the direction from which it came. The motion I refer to here is the apparent path of the sun from our viewpoint here on the Earth. If we are viewing the sun in its position in the sky at the same time every day, for example, local noon. Over the course of a year, the path of the sun and many of our celestial bodies forms a sort of flattened figure 8. Again, not in its travel through the cosmos, but simply the way that we view it from our vantage point here on Earth. That flattened figure 8 is something known as an analemma. And of course, the sun is not moving. Of course, it's moving through the Milky Way, but it's not actually moving in this figure 8. Instead, it's changing its position in the sky in proximity to what we can view from the Earth as a result of the tilt in the Earth's axis as we orbit around the sun, and also as a result of the fact that our orbit around the sun is not perfectly circle, but it's elliptical. It's slightly elongated. It's shorter on the ends and lengthier in the middle. So this analemma that we see starts to appear as if it's moving sort of around the bend and going back the other direction when we cross that very long daylight period at summer solstice. So again, in contrast to experiencing the longest day of the year at the summer solstice, we also experience the shortest night. And from this point forward in our orbit around the sun, our days will just get shorter and shorter, and our nights will get longer and longer until we reach the other side of the orbit and celebrate winter solstice with the shortest day and the longest night of the year. And then that cycle will reverse and continue back to summer solstice. And again, this is the phenomena that we experience in the northern hemisphere. But for those of you tuning in south of the equator, that phenomena is going to be reversed. On June 20th, 2021, you'll be experiencing the shortest day of the year. And then in December, because that tilt of the Earth is leaning 23.5 degrees, you'll experience your longest days in the southern hemisphere in December. So just on an astrophysical level, summer solstice is a time for us to celebrate the light in our lives from the sun, the light in our lives from our family and friends, and the blessings of the planet, and also the light that we radiate within ourselves and share out with the world. It's an auspicious occasion for us to reflect on the radiance and nourishment that we receive from the sun, and also how we can take that light and transmute it and create with it and give it back out into the world. So it's a beautiful occasion for us to reflect on and nurture our own inner light so that we can share more of that light outward with others. Summer solstice also marks the time on the Zodiac ecliptic when the sun moves into the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a watery and an intuitive sign that calls us to focus on our sense of home, of creating a nest and a space where we feel safe and comfortable to share our inner light. And it also is an occasion, a sign that invites us to really dive into our sensory experience. Much like the long light of day, solstice is a really expansive time energetically and emotionally. It's a time that inspires us to reach beyond ourselves for connection and for inspiration. Summer solstice invites us to not just stand in the light of the sun, but to stand in the light of our own spirit shining forth, and to open ourselves out into shining that light out into the world. And I don't know about you, but after a year where we have been holding ourselves back and staying within and really cocooning, this summer solstice really marks a turning point where we can welcome with a breath of fresh air the opportunity to bask in the sun, to bask in the light of others and our family, our friend circle, our community, and also to reciprocate and share our own light as we're receiving the light of others. Traditions and cultures all over the world for thousands of years have followed the wheel of the year through their orbit around the sun, and have marked these occasions of long days and short nights with a variety of traditions and celebrations. And there are a few inspirations that I take from those cultures in terms of ways that very simply and beautifully I can celebrate the long light of day with the summer solstice and the bounty that this season brings to us of such abundance. And so a few ways that we may mark the summer solstice. Well, one for me is being in the garden and harvesting and gleaning the fruits and berries and the bounty that summer brings us in our garden, and making a feast for myself and for my family and my friends, really nourishing myself and my family and celebrating all the gifts that the earth provides in the summertime. I also call upon lots of especially Druid and Celtic traditions in adorning my home and myself with the blossoms of summer. So think about a bouquet, even a simple small sprig in every room of your house. Think about flower garlands and flower crowns where we can invite in the blossoms of summer and adorn ourselves with them as a form of celebration. Of course, a lot of traditions will keep bonfires and tend a fire through the shortest night of the year as a part of their tradition. That's not always something that's ecologically sound or something that we have the ability to do in our environment, but perhaps we honor the fire and the light of the sun, the fire from the sun, with a candle as we are meditating or journaling or doing some evening exercises or rituals. I also love to mark summer solstice by cultivating and nurturing and expressing my inner creative energy, that inner light, and creating some art, even if it's just for myself, a collage, painting, some crafts from pieces of nature, any ways that we can really nurture and nourish and cultivate and express that inner creative light and spirit and release that out into the world. Summer solstice may offer us a perfect time to pack a feast in a basket and enjoy it outside, sitting on a blanket with some summertime fruits and bubbly water and syrups and cordials and different drinks that can invite in just that celebratory time and sweeten our spirit. I think it's a beautiful opportunity for us to set intentions with this change of seasons and mark of seasons, with all the light of the season illuminating our intentions, to write them out, to collage them, to paint them, to in any way we can just really mark our the next season of potential and opportunity, using all the light of solstice to spark our inspiration and our ability to manifest. And finally, any way that we can just honor the sunlight, spending time in the garden, sunbathing in the backyard, doing some sun salutations on the porch, just being outside and soaking in some of those beautiful rays of sun. The summer solstice is marked by numerous traditions and cultures around the world through festivals that often celebrate fertility and creativity, are marked by bonfires or dancing or feasts. For instance, in Egypt, the summer solstice is considered a new year and is marked by festivals all along the Nile River in celebration of the goddess Isis. The Taino people celebrate the yellow corn mother throughout the Caribbean every summer solstice. In Norway, fires are lit throughout the shortest night of the year to honor Suna, which is the Norse sun goddess. The Western pagan tradition celebrates Litha, which is held in the days surrounding the summer solstice and often aligned with the closest full moon to summer solstice, where there are celebrations of gratitude and joy, blossoms of the garden, and self-empowerment. In Sweden, midsummer is considered a national holiday, and much of the country closes to take part in the festivities. There are even monuments in continents across the world that were architected thousands of years ago to measure time and mark the seasons. One of the most familiar that marks summer solstice is Stonehenge in Wiltshire, England, which was built 5,000 years ago and is famed for its alignment with the midsummer sunrise. And you don't have to travel all the way to England to witness the amazing phenomena of the sun rising through the stones at this monument. You can just check Google or Facebook Live to tune in and watch that magical sunrise for yourself. There are so many folklore traditions surrounding this holiday, in addition to national celebrations and festivals. According to an old Latvian legend, Midsummer's Eve, which is also known in many European cultures as St. John's Eve, is spent awake by a bonfire in pursuit of a magical fern flower that's said to bring you good luck. One Scottish tale says that if you sleep under an elderberry tree on Midsummer's Eve, you'll be greeted by the king of the fairies. Others call solstice St. John's Day and suggest that evil spirits can appear, and so protective garlands and crowns of herbs and flowers are worn as a result. No matter what the legend, surely summer solstice is a magical time for us to pitch a tent and camp out under the stars. Do you have summer solstice traditions with your family, or are you inspired with ways that you can honor and mark this longest day of sunlight on Sunday? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing about how you are honoring and marking this start of astronomical summer and the change of seasons. I know I'll be outside with a fire, looking at the stars, and maybe even meeting the king of the fairies if I'm lucky. If you enjoyed learning about summer solstice, this is a great example of the content that we share in our moon medicine program. And we'll be starting our next year-long series right now at summer solstice. We have a pre-class orientation on Sunday, and our first lesson will come to your inbox for the full moon happening on June 24th. So you have up until June 24th to sign up for this year-long series, and it'll be our last offering of the 2021 year for this program. So if you have been lunar curious and enjoy learning more about the physics and the energy and the history of astronomical phenomena just like summer solstice, then check out moonmedicine.org. You can download your lunar calendar planner, several workbooks from our series, and watch other videos like this to give you a taste of what we offer. Until next time, happy summer solstice and happy moon gazing.